Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NR2003 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season. Coming at you today, the penultimate race of the regular season from Michigan International Speedway. Just two races remain in the regular season, with an incredibly close playoff battle for the final few spots and even a close regular season championship battle that we will be talking about today, as we are in for one heck of a race based off of testing. This is going to be an all-out pack race with the potential for really large crashes that could change absolutely everything in the final two races of this regular season. I am joined by JayCook. As always, Jay, we've seen with testing what is coming today. If you're a guy right now like Martin Truex Jr., Chris Buescher, the last two drivers in on points, what are you feeling coming into this race, knowing that this is going to be an all-out pack race? And not only that, but you have the same thing coming next week at Daytona.
I would say with these final two races here, both being Michigan and Daytona, both of them going to be plate races, I would say from Martin Truex Jr. down to Tyler Reddick, none of them feel comfortable and none of them know where they're going to be after these 2 weeks. Tyler Reddick is only 44 points out. That gives three guys separated by about 20 points right now that are fighting for those final two playoff spots, and then the final two guys inside the playoffs are only inside by 34 and then 24. So we have some really good battles going on there going into these final two races, and we also have some really good battle going, or a really good battle going on for those top three spots in the overall points as well. That will give a crucial 15, 10, and 5 playoff points that the drivers can take through all 3 rounds to get them to the final round. So those points are crucial as well. We have Larson and Elliott battling it out for the top spot. Now, if something happens to both those drivers today, then it puts Joey Logano, Eric Almirola, and I believe Brad Keselowski
Denny
right
Hamlin.
back in, or Denny Hamlin, Denny Hamlin right into the conversation for that top spot. So at the moment, we have a lot of things to look for in these races, and there's a lot more going on than just that playoff battle.
We'll be keeping you guys updated all race long on the situation going for the bubble points drivers, as well as the regular season championship battle. 120 laps coming your way here from Michigan International Speedway. Stage 1, 30 laps. Stage 2, 30 laps. They complete on lap 31, 61. The race completes on lap 121, as Ryan Blaney leads the way to the green flag. Last week's winner, Chase Elliott from the Indianapolis Road Course, row number 3 on the outside. As you're going to be seeing a lot of pack racing unfolding here today from Michigan all race long. Potential for some large crashes, a lot of crashes. We're going to have to wait and see how these guys play it out here now. As up front, right off the bat, you're looking at the bubble story. Kyle Busch comes into this race 43 points below the cut line. Truex comes in now over 30 points above the cut line after Matt DiBenedetto's engine failure and Indianapolis last episode at the end of, I think it was stage 1 or 2. So a lot of stuff to focus on here today, and of course the regular season championship battle. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott separated by just 8 points coming into this episode. So Jay, a lot of stuff on the line here today, and I mean, of course, we look immediately at Kyle Busch, who he's in a situation now, of course, where one race can change everything for him. If he crashes out early, he's going to be out by potentially 60, 70 points if it plays that way, and he would be in a must-win situation no matter what going into next episode. But if he does what he is now, or if he keeps doing what he's doing right now, of course, he's going to close that gap, and he's almost in a situation that even at a plate track where it is very prone to big crashes, he's kind of forced into this position where he has to try and be up front all day long.
Yeah, you can't really ride in the back if you're Kyle Busch or Matt DiBenedetto or really any of those guys around the bubble. You have to find your way up to the front and get yourself stage points. Those all important stage points now make for a much different strategy at these plate races. And gone are the days of, all right, I know my situation going into this. I'm going to ride in the back for 100 laps and then we're going to go for the last 20. So, you know, it really does create the situation where these guys have to go for it and really race hard for positions because they want to be inside that top 10 and get those points that they need. So we've seen it before. It creates wrecks. It can create incidents. It can create things happening. And so you really have to be careful to not put yourself in one of those situations where you're involved in a wreck. Even though you want to be aggressive, you can't be too aggressive. So you have to just be mindful of the situation you're in and not go and put yourself in 3, 4, 5 wide situations. Only make your passes when you know you can do it, and then just try and keep yourself not in a big bunch of cars, because that is when you're going to wind up getting caught up in a wreck from either you not being able to slow down or somebody else not being able to slow down and hitting you.
I want an over and under from you here, Jay. What do you think? how many crashes do you think we see before the end of stage 2? More than 3 or less than 3?
I think we'll probably see more than three. I don't know if we're going to see three cautions because it's very possible here that we have a wreck or two that doesn't cause one. But I would be surprised if we have less than three crashes, to be honest. I can see these guys being really aggressive with each other. Somebody may wind up hitting the wall and getting into another car, and we get a small wreck that way. So lots of different ways we can have crashes here when these guys are really being really aggressive like this and really close together like this. And then, once we start having cautions happen, that might be when we start seeing the bigger wrecks happen. Because as we've seen it before, we have a clean stage one, they start getting restarts, and all of a sudden everything just goes to chaos, and we start having big giant wrecks, and the entire rest of the race is just a wreck fest. So it all just depends on how restarts are at Michigan, and it all depends on when these cautions fall.
And one thing that's kind of a positive for these restarts here today is they will all be single file unless there's some lap traffic in the mix. The only time I think you're going to see lap traffic today is if it's a damaged car off the pace and whatnot. So we'll have to wait and see how that could potentially affect racing later in the day, maybe at the end of stage 1, and then of course the rest of the race. Kevin Harvick out in front right now. Fascinating situation with Kevin Harvick, of course. Won Daytona 500, won the Daytona Road Course, and now, as it stands, he has 678 points. Without those wins, he would be 6 points below the cut line to make the whole playoffs now, as it's very close right there with Hamlin and Keselowski, as well as Kyle Larson. Doesn't turn into anything now, as they are going to be very close, 4 or 5 wide here and there today. So, Jay, I mean, any moment, like we've said before, with these plate races, especially, it seems like here, you're not going to be safe anywhere in this pack now. Is just one little slip up, someone merges up off the apron a little bit awkwardly, or someone just decides to force it 5 wide into turns 1 and 2, we can see half the field get wiped out in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can say that there's one place that's more unsafe than the other around this track. You're on the inside, possible that you wind up losing control of your car and you slide up and hit somebody. You're on the outside, you have nowhere to go, somebody hits you. You're in the middle, you're beating a bango with somebody. So no matter where you are on this track, anything can happen at any time. You can get caught up in a wreck anywhere. I think that the only safe place to be is probably the leader if there's no one next to you. So in a situation like this where you see 4 wide and those two in the middle making contact with each other, it seems like you're going to be okay. Normally when you see contact made like that, that's going to wind up being an incident, and so you really don't want to see that happening. But just anywhere around this track, especially with the way this racing is, you can be caught up in a wreck. So you have to be really careful about it, and just aware of people around you. And same thing for your spotter as well. Your spotter has to be aware of things going on so they can tell you as early as possible if something is happening so you can get yourself out of the way and not involved in it.
Speaking of spotters, Brad Keselowski just had a spotter change coming into this weekend. He and Joey Logano actually swapped spotters. I believe Blake Coleman is now Logano's spotter, and Brad Keselowski is now working with TJ Majors, who he used to work with back all the way over a decade ago in the Xfinity Series, I believe. And then, of course, he moved over with Dale Jr. in the Cup Series. But Jay, those two, they've gone back a long ways, and Keselowski, we know, is a tremendous plate racer. He's had a lot of bad luck in past plate races over the last 4 or 5 years. And then TJ Majors, of course, is considered one of the all-time greats of spotters in general, but of course, especially when it comes to plate racing. So that combination right there could be, honestly, season-changing for them, especially when you look at Talladega coming up later in the season. That could be a key moment for them where they could maybe just pick up a win together and ultimately get them towards the Final Four push.
Yeah, I think that is a little bit of a scary duo when you think about these plate races. Brad Keselowski, as good as he is at plate tracks, and then TJ Majors, probably the best spotter at plate tracks in this Cup Series. He's extremely good at giving information. The information he gives is the most detailed, but also quick at the same time. I think I've heard from any other spotter out there right now, and he knows exactly what the driver needs to hear, and he knows what to say, and he knows how to put them in a position to avoid wrecks, or at least the best position possible to avoid wrecks. Sometimes they are unavoidable, but he really gives great information and really can help put these drivers in the best situations possible. So Keselowski, I'm sure he's going to be extremely excited to have TJ Majors for next weekend at Daytona, and we could maybe see Keselowski finally break through and get another plate track win.
Certainly looks like the 4 of Kevin Harvick has some speed under that Busch Light Ford Mustang here today for Stewart-Haas Racing, because he's kind of in command of the field and kind of causing a single file line here throughout the first 7-8 cars or so, and then of course it's going double file, but kind of calm right now here from Michigan. So, I mean, Jay, if you put out a car that's really strong, like what it looks like Kevin Harvick has, I mean, if you get them out front, they're just going to be able to turn it into a train. And of course, it works perfectly for them, as there was a little bit of contact between the 21 and the 17. They are okay. But back to Harvick, I mean, if he's able to stay out in front, it's going to be very, very hard to go anywhere once you get into the top 10 today.
Yeah, if you have the strongest car in the field out in front of the line, he's going to be able to carry that line no matter where he is on track, either top or bottom. So he'll be able to carry that line around, and we've seen it time and time again at both Daytona and Talladega. We've seen the strongest car get out front, and they're able to just pull that line with them. But I think another thing that's happening right now is we're seeing a lot of guys trying to make moves on the bottom and in the middle, and especially on the bottom, it's really not strong here at Michigan. You can see Briscoe there just immediately falling back there from Tyler Reddick. So I think that's another thing as well, is you just have a lot of cars on the outside at the moment and not that many on the inside. So the disadvantage of being on the inside in the corners is not going to leave them sticking with the outside, especially when there's so many cars in it and not enough help on the bottom.
And looking at that playoff situation right now, Chris Buescher comes into today 24 points above the cut line. He is the last driver in. What a downfall it has been for that team, but they still find themselves in for now. And right now, it's having a good run inside the top 10, actually up towards the top 5. Tyler Reddick up there in the mix. He's 44 points below the cut line. That's the last guy that has a realistic chance of pointing his way in. And then everybody below Buescher, which actually starts with Alex Bowman, everyone from him on down is all in a must-win situation. And here we are seeing Alex Bowman run up there in P3. Jay, there's been shades of just kind of, or a glimmer of hope for Alex Bowman in that 48 team throughout this season. They've had moments where they've shown speed, but we've consistently seen them when they have shown speed continue to fail to adapt with the conditions, with the adjustments, and they always fade as the race goes on, or they just show up with no speed at all. So this is one of their opportunities, because adjusting the car isn't going to be as important with a pack race here today at Michigan and next week at Daytona. This could be, obviously is their final 2 chances to get into the playoffs, and this could be the perfect opportunity to do that today.
He's certainly gotten stronger in the summer stretch, kind of like Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch has. He's just not gotten the same results, and he also hasn't been as strong either. When he's shown up with speed, it's usually been in stage 1, and then by the time stage 2 rolls around, he's kind of falling back towards the back of the pack, or he just winds up finding a way to end up in a wreck. We've seen that a few times as well, where he's fighting for the lead or in the lead and winds up wrecked. So it's been a little bit of a mix of bad luck and just bad performance for Bowman, but the overwhelming majority of his season has been bad performance, and those few good races have been very much outweighed by the times he's had just not great speed at all, and his point shows where he's over 100 out now, and in a position where he must win. He has no chance of putting his way into the playoffs at this point. So that team has really got to just throw away trying for stage points or trying some different strategies. They have to just go for wins at this point. And right now, at the moment, he's doing a decent job of it in 3rd place, but we've seen before him do this and not be able to stay around towards the end of the race. So that team has really got to be able to keep up with adjustments today.
Right now, you're seeing Matt DiBenedetto run just behind the 8 of Tyler Reddick, about to be 3 wide with Keselowski as well as Hamlin. So DiBenedetto currently in, I believe, the 11th position as we close in on the end of this line. But it looks like, Jay, he's falling down the order, almost like, yeah, I mean, we got Harvick in command, so everybody's just following him, and it's turning into a bit of a single file race up here. So if you're kind of on the bottom right here, I think as long as Kevin Harvick's out front, you don't want to be anywhere where, say, the 8 or the 2 are. You want to be up top right now.
Yeah, it seems like the line is just kind of moved up top at the moment, and until we get another restart, that's probably how it's going to stay. We've seen several cars go to the bottom, a little run gets started, and then it winds up just filtering back to the top again. So I think that this is probably going to be how it is for the rest of this stage. We may not see many passes made at all, because the only place you're going to be able to pass is on the bottom, and obviously the bottom is not working at the moment. So we may not see anybody get past Harvick. We may not really see much shuffling in the top 10 at all. I noticed with Benedetto, he was up battling for the lead a couple laps into this race, and he was going at Kevin Harvick, and then he got kind of stuck on the bottom and slowly started to fall back, and then ever since, that was kind of when the bottom started dying out, and now he's back where he is. So you really are going to struggle if that bottom line is not going anywhere and you start falling back.
Ignore those weekly frame drops we seem to have all of a sudden this season. What we're going to do actually is a quick little break here and come back just in time for the pit stops here in about 3-4 laps. Back from Michigan, we believe we got those little technical difficulties solved once again here now as we're on lap 22, and the field window is approximately 22 to 24 laps, so I anticipate seeing pit stops coming on this very lap here. driver's probably going to do 4 tires and feel, and then take it to the final few laps of stage 1, which is just 10 laps to go here, ending when we hit lap 31. So will we see Harvick come into the pit lane? I don't know. It looks like we are going to have a bunch of drivers electing to come into the pit lane, though, as you see Blaney, Bowman, the 14, the 99, and a bunch of others as well coming into the pit lane. Now, Jay, do you think short pitting at a track like this with the pack racing nature that we're not seeing a whole lot of, a lot of single file right now, but with this pack racing nature, is short pitting going to get you very far today, or do you think it's really just going to come down to not tires, but how many cars you have come into the pit lane with you?
I think it'll be a little bit of both. In this situation here, with as many cars that just came down pit road, I think it's going to help Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, and some of those others. Quite a few cars from that lead pack just came down pit road, and you can see Kevin Harvick already falling back to that group behind him. He had a decent gap on all these guys back here. He's already fallen back, so that's just how strong the draft is. There was a little bit of contact between the 10 and 22. As it looks like they're all coming into pit road this time. So we're going to have two groups, kind of like we have at real life at Talladega and Daytona. But I think that the tire advantage is going to help Blaney and Bowman in that first group. And we might see them get the lead here and be out front of this group here, of the second group coming into pit road now.
And they're all just coming out now, so we'll see where they cycle out here in about a lap's time. Kevin Harvick, you see some damage on the 34 of Michael McDowell. Might have got that on the pit entry, I believe. There was some stacking up there. The 3's got a little bit of rear end damage, so I think we can kind of put 2 and 2 together. But I do see a little bit of damage on the back, or on the front of the 43 as well. But we're going to see where everybody cycles out right here. So at the front of this main pack, it's going to be the 21 of Ryan Blaney. Less than 10 laps remain, coming to 6 laps to go here in stage 1. A very calm first stage. I can tell you guys, we actually have attempted this race 3 times so far, and this is completely different than anything we had in the first 2 so far. Here is Ryan Blaney cycling through, and as of right now, there you see Kevin Harvick on the exit of the corner, and Jay, right now, it looks like it's going to be pretty even. He's going to actually come out in front of these guys, but it looks like he's got enough of a gap to where he might get absolutely swallowed up here in a couple laps' time.
Yeah, this is kind of surprising for me. I did not expect Harvick to come out with that large of a gap. There was a chance I thought maybe he'd still be in the lead, but not that large of a gap. But normally, you'd be celebrating if he had that type of gap. Not this track, though. With those guys behind him in their own little draft, even 3 cars together is going to be enough for them to just immediately swallow up Harvick. And then there's this even larger group back here that might swallow those lead guys up as well. So these pit stops here, if these guys get grouped up towards the middle of the pack here, we might actually see them go back up towards the leaders in the pack. We may see that pack reform for the end of stage 1.
And there you see already, by the time we come back to the live shot, Harvick is under attack from about 3 different drivers here, as Alex Bowman's going to try and force a 3 wide with Briscoe. Briscoe in a must-win situation. Bowman in a must-win situation here to make it into the next round, but it looks like it's going to be 2 by 2. Almirola has a bit of that draft, so he's going to come up into the mix. 5 laps to go here in stage 1 from Michigan now, as Harvick continues to lead the way. As you see, this next pack of cars with Matt DiBenedetto as well as Chris Buescher in the mix. And this is going to be a good stage for Buescher, because as of right now, Martin Truex Jr. is not even in the top 20 after the pit stop cycle, and Matt DiBenedetto is in a position currently to get 3 or 4 points potentially. So Jay, that's going to allow him to close it up a little bit and make this a big opportunity for him, and force Truex into a second stage where he has to push it as hard as he can to get to the front of the pack as quick as he can.
Yeah, Truex is now going to not be gaining any stage points, and then Chris Buescher will be gaining stage points, so that's going to make that 10-point gap a little bit smaller. And DiBenedetto is going to gain some points on Truex, but I don't think he's going to gain any on Buescher. So at the moment, DiBenedetto doing everything he kind of can do, and unfortunately for him, is not really going to gain him anything. He's still going to be around the same area that he was to start this race. So hopefully he's going to have to hope for stage 2 for better results.
And there you see Harvick, just how much speed he has. It's definitely going to take more cars on that inside line, I think, if they want to be able to beat him. You see that next pack of cars starting to close in. Last time around, they were about 2.2 seconds behind the leader. They got a lot more cars in that pack. Will that allow them to get closer this time by? It puts them now 2.0 seconds. So they gained about 0.2 of a second right there. That lap just up ahead. These guys have Quinn Half. The car that they're going to have to worry about in stage 2 is that 34 right there. He's missing his front bumper. And like I said, I believe that occurred on the pit lane. But it'll be just 2 laps to go this time by. Jay, do you think that second pack has enough time to try and get up to this pack with 2 laps here and try and make something happen? As we see, the 14 actually passed the 4 for the lead.
I think we will see them get up here. They look like they're quite a bit closer this lap. They were more uniform this time around, and the leaders were still kind of going for it. So I think we might see this group gain a good bit here. But they're going to have to really go and really push if they want to get up to that lead pack. They gained almost half a second that time, so they're going to have to look for that, look for more than that this time.
Harvick now dropping down to about third, possibly fourth. These guys are also going to have to deal with Quinn Helf before the stage comes to a close here. As that second pack gets closer and closer. They're all also very organized, single file right now as they try to make this push towards that front pack here as we approach the final lap of stage one. Quinn Helf, he's going to be finding himself in the mix. The 14 of Briscoe drops to the inside in front of that 12 of Ryan Blaney. White flag in the air for stage one. We'll have the caution command come up down the back straightaway 3 wide. Now is Harvick finding himself the odd guy out behind that 00 of Quinn Helf. And Jay, this is exactly what these guys needed to do, is try and find a way to get Harvick out of the mix as quick as they could.
Yeah, this is going to, I think, pose for a better restart in stage two, and we're going to maybe potentially have some pack racing if Harvick is able to fall down the order a little bit and not go back into the lead. So I think this is, for overall race quality and what we want to see in the pack race, I think this is exactly what we needed. Because I think Harvick just has too strong of a car at the moment that he's going to pull anybody with him and make this race kind of single file.
And to the line, it's actually going to be the 14 of Chase Briscoe getting the stage win. Blaney would have loved to have gotten that there, as he is already locked into the playoffs with a couple wins on the season. That would have been really big right there to get any extra playoff points that he could, but he ends up second place. Briscoe in a must-win situation to advance into the playoffs. Does a good job there getting the stage win. The rookie, Jay, we've been seeing Briscoe as we expect pit stops this time by, but we've been seeing Briscoe as well. He had a horrendous start to his rookie season, but as well as we've talked about kind of these summer trends with some drivers getting better, he's definitely been one of those drivers that has really improved over the summer stretch, but of course not enough to be able to try and point his way, and he still finds himself in that must-win situation.
Yeah, he's doing everything he needs to right now in this race and put himself in the lead for the end of stage one. Unfortunately, those points aren't going to help him much as far as playoff goes, unless he is able to take advantage of that playoff point if he wins here. But he's in a good position now to where he's going to be able to pit. If he has a good pit stop, he'll regain the lead. And then now he just needs to try and stay there for the rest of this race, which is, I think, unlikely simply because it's a plate race, and we've seen leads change so often at plate tracks. No matter how good your car is, unless you're a guy like Kevin Harvick who has just the absolute probably best car in the field, but you usually get past no matter what at these plate tracks. So Briscoe's got to hope he can stay up front and be in the right position towards the end of this race to go for a win.
Matt DiBenedetto, by the way, got 2 points in stage one. The 24 just about got into the back of the 99, but he got 2 points compared to Busher, who ended up getting none. Truex, of course, got none as well. So that will put now DiBenedetto 22 points below the cut line at the end of stage one. So we'll have to keep an eye on that all day long. What's going on there? As you see, Kevin Harvick out. Hamlin's the first one out. Then it's LaJoie. Then it's Harvick. Blaney and Briscoe are down towards the bottom part of the top 5. So some strategy coming into the mix there. We'll have to see how those tire strategies work with 2 tires. Only about 3 guys did it. So what we're going to do, though, is go for a very quick break and come back for the start of stage 2 as Chase Briscoe starts off the day with a stage 1 victory. Back from Michigan International Speedway. Welcome back as we get ready to go green for the start of the second stage. Chase Briscoe won stage 1 over Ryan Blaney there in that photo finish, but the front 3 here of Denny Hamlin, Corey LaJoie, as well as Kevin Harvick took 2 tires. We know the 4 car has speed, but Jay, when it comes to a track like Michigan with this pack racing, do you think 2 tires is going to make a big difference compared to everybody else that took 4, or are they going to maybe get engulfed here in the opening laps?
I'm not too sure I have an answer for that. I'm not too sure what to expect with 2 tires. I would think they might be okay because it seemed like the tire wear wasn't that big of an issue considering Ryan Blaney and those guys pitted a lap earlier and still were not able to get past Kevin Harvick. So 2 tires may be a decent call here and it may work out for these guys, but it's very possible that over a 30-lap stretch, when they have to pit in 20-something laps, towards the end of it, they might wind up being way slower than these guys with 4 tires.
There you see Hamlin leading the way. Quinn Helf on the top. He is a little bit off the pace just being in a Starcom car in general. As the 14 of Briscoe is going to try and lead that inside line to the front here now. As we're seeing some 3 wide here, multiple rows deep. DeBenedetto, third car on the inside line. Now maybe trying to force it 4 wide, it looks like, potentially down into turns 1 here. Let's see if he finds himself in any trouble right there, but it looks like he might back out of it on the entrance of the corner. Here's about the racing we've been expecting, Jay. Finally getting to see a piece of it, and we've been hyping this part of the racing up here at Michigan, and now any point, if they race like this, they could find themselves getting wiped out. So if you're a guy like DeBenedetto, you probably want to try and get to that front spot just to be a little bit safer.
Yeah, at the moment with 3 wide, it's not terribly risky. It's it's still risky, but it's not as bad as if we see 4 and 5 wide. That's when you really could start seeing some wrecks happen. So at the moment, 3 wide, I think these drivers are more comfortable with that than they are if, well, they're going to go 4 wide with Kyle Larson going to the apron. We've seen issues with this as well in some of our testing, but it'll be back to 3 wide, so that's good going into the corner. Never mind, it's back to 4 as Benedetto makes a really
Big
aggressive
run.
move into turn 1 there. That was surprising. I did not see that working. He's got the run off of the exit now. He's going to take it 4 wide again. He's got to realize the point situation here. He has to be careful and not keep making these 4 wide situations.
At the same time, he's showcasing a speed I don't think we thought he had in that car today, because that was bold, aggressive, but it worked. Is there going to be 4 wide again behind them? Quinn Helf, by the way, now that he's in the draft, I mean, is sticking with the pack just fine, so he's really not affecting anything here. As we look a little bit further back now, another just kind of big group of cars. There is a little bit of space from here on back, and that was actually because the 34 of McDowell who was in the way, and you're going to see him all the way back here now as we look. Where's that 19 of Martin Truex Jr.? He's right at the back of this kind of pack right here as well. He has some work to do. He gave up a few points there to Matt Benedetto, so he's definitely got to be on it here in stage 2, but of course really needs to focus on more of the 17 than Matt Benedetto in that 21 car. Now big run for the 10 is up front. There you see it's going to be 4 wide again on the exit of the corner. Kevin Harvick making a move for the lead. That's not what you want to see for anybody here in Michigan now. Jay, I mean, you probably got to fight Kevin Harvick very hard today, because if he gets out in front again, they're going to have a very tough time passing here in stage 2, I think.
The good thing for Hamlin is he's on the outside, and that's the stronger line. And now Briscoe is going to send it up Harvick's inside to make that a little bit tighter. So Hamlin's going to have the advantage of being on the outside line. And that may be the thing that keeps Harvick from getting the lead. It just depends on what kind of help Kevin Harvick gets.
Denny Hamlin won a few weeks ago at Watkins Glen, and has now 3 wins, I think it is, on the season. So he is tied, I believe it is, with Kyle Larson, actually, for 3 wins apiece for them on the season. And of course, a regular season championship battle going on with those drivers. Hamlin, he's quite a ways out, almost 50 points below Kyle Larson in the regular season championship battle. But him, Almirola, Joey Logano, they're all within about 5 points of each other for that 3rd, 4th, and 5th spot. And Jay, if we see Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott maybe get crashed out here today, that can bring it to a 5-car battle potentially for the regular season championship at Daytona next week, which I don't think we've ever seen that happen before in NASCAR.
Yeah, it would really be something to see that it go down at Daytona. And I think with these last 2 races, I don't know if you can count any one of those 5 drivers out from any one of those 3 positions. All it takes is one crash to take out Kyle Larson, and all of a sudden those 4 are back in it, or any number of those scenarios can happen. So we have a lot of things going on here that can really change the fate of some playoff drivers. It can change the fate of the regular season championship. So many things can happen in these last 2 races, and with this pack being like this, like it is right now at Michigan, these guys are going to start getting aggressive, and we might see some wrecks start happening soon because they know what's on the line here at the moment.
20 laps to go in stage 2, coming to 19 to go. Oh, we got a crash in the background. Chase Elliott, Kurt Busch as well involved. The 20 of Christopher Bell I see go around, and a few others. Alfredo into the wall there. Elliott with heavy damage. We were just talking about this regular season championship battle of Larson and Elliott ran into trouble. Well, Elliott has gotten some trouble. The 52 has crashed after the yellow has even come out, and now everyone cools down here as could get a little bit awkward right here with the 4, the 21, the 10. Oh boy, the 4 of Harvick is going to get turned in the middle of the pack. This is going to create another incident here. A big stack up. We got multiple cars involved under the caution. The 24 is doing a front flip and a somersault, and Byron might be out of the race here as Elliott and the guys that already crashed are piling in as well. And oh my goodness, Kevin Harvick is not going to be too affected by that. But what just happened under caution here? They were 4 wide on the cooldown lap, and Keselowski finds himself out in front as the caution flies. They're going to be coming to the pit lane immediately. Jay, I don't know what in the world they were doing there. Somehow they could not get themselves separated, and it results in the big one happening under caution.
Gotta love NR2003. We always We always talk about these cautions can make things interesting and always create incidents and stuff like that. We don't normally ever talk about it happening under the caution. We normally talk about it stemming from a restart from these cautions. So anything can happen on NR2003, I guess, and that was something I think we've seen very few times this year, where we have guys four wide like that, and they just wind up wrecking each other, and it causes a huge wreck. We've seen stack ups happen before, but I don't think we've ever seen an actual wreck get caused under caution before, where the entire field then is able to not get slowed up and they all come piling in. And there's going to be some cars that are able to get their damage fixed, but there's also several with very heavy damage. And I see the 17 has got some pretty big damage there as well. So that's a huge thing to pay attention to. Is Chris Buescher fighting for his playoff life? Looks like he's going to be in a very terrible position here.
Well, we're going to try and count here how many cars do not have damage, or very minimal damage for that matter. Of course, you got Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, DeBenedetto, Larson, Kyle Busch. Blaney's got a little bit of rear end damage. Rear end damage probably will not affect their pace very much. So Almirola's good. Truex, maybe Briscoe. Bowman's fine. Newman might be okay. The 23, the 4, the 51, the 53, the 42, 62. 3 car looks okay. Maybe Reddick. Tough to tell with him. The 7 has a little bit of front end damage. But I would say it's pretty split. Logano looks pretty good. Elliott, of course, a lot of damage on him, and the 37. So definitely some cars out, including the number 52, the 1 of Kurt Busch, the 15, the 96 Cole Custer as well. And I mean, just huge moment right there in what could be for this playoff battle in general. Now, is of course we need to get a replay of the first incident and then the big one that occurred under caution here from Michigan International Speedway. So let's get a look at what just happened. As by the way, the 99 of Daniel Suarez out with a header failure, and the 17 of Chris Buescher is out of this race, as well as the number 24 of William Byron and the 47 of Stanos. A lot of DNFs here that we'll go through after the replays. Let's get a look at what just happened. Here's a look at the first crash. Chase Elliott, as well as the 17, 37, the 14. They're all going to come together. The 14 kind of washes up right there. They all get close, and the 9 just gets hooked, and around he goes. The 17 as well got a bit of a piece of it, as you saw the 1 car of Kurt Busch go around. In the background, the 38 of Alfredo took a piece. The 52, ooh, a big hit to the 1 car of Kurt Busch, and into the grass he would go. But it was not over yet. We thought it was. The caution comes out. Everyone's on the cooldown lap, and here we are, Jay, seeing 4 wide, and just for some reason, these guys decide to give each other no room at all. And of course, we saw what happened here just in a moment later.
It was already a little bit sketched between the 4, the 10, and the 21, and then Larson decided to send it up their inside and create 4 wide. And then they came off the corner and tried to get themselves filtered into a line. And I'm guessing that some of those guys to the inside were ahead of Harvick, and that's why he was going down. And they just all squeezed together, and Harvick gets spun in front of the pack, and then nobody else is able to slow down, and they all just kind of come piling into it. And a lot of cars get heavy damage, and we now have a lot of cars that have retired, and a lot of cars that are stayed on the track, but they, of course, do have damage, and we'll have to see if they're able to keep themselves competitive in this race.
Getting ready now to go back green this time by. It will be just 15 laps remaining in stage 2. A bunch of cars with damage after that incident, and some of the notable drivers here that are out of this race. We got the 52 Balicki out, Kurt Busch is out, the 15 of Davison, the 96 of Ty Dillon, Cole Custer, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., William Byron, shocker there after we saw him do a front flip and somersault. And then we got the 17, who was the final driver in the playoffs, out of this race of Chris Buescher. The 99 of Daniel Suarez out. Elliott and the 00 are in the race, but they are 1 lap down. Elliott spent a lengthy amount of time on the pit lane there getting repairs to his car, but you still see a good chunk of damage on that as Keselowski leads the way back to the green flag. So, Jay, do you think this is the end of the pack racing here? You think it's going to be more of a single file line, or do you think we still have enough cars that are in good shape to create some 3-4 wide racing? Obviously, it's going to be a lot scaled back, but we still could be in store for quite the race up front.
Oh, yes, I still think we're going to see quite a lot of pack racing here. These guys are not going to take the aggression away, and we still have plenty of cars that could take this 3 wide and create a pack here. The one thing we're going to have to watch for in any of these restarts, and it's already kind of immediately taken effect, is you see them all getting held up by the 9 there, is the 00 and the 9. They're going to be way off pace, but they're always going to start towards the front of this pack. So it's going to be a matter of who can get out front of these guys and then who gets stuck behind them. As we saw Briscoe still stuck behind Chase Elliott. He has lost a ton of positions. We talked about him earlier, putting himself in good position to try and win this race. He won stage 1. Well, he got involved in that incident, and he's got a ton of rear end damage, and now he's lost a ton of track position, being stuck behind Chase Elliott, still stuck behind him. But it looks like Almirola actually might still be competitive, as he's up here still fighting for a position in the top 5 with all that rear end damage.
Truex as well up in the mix here in that number 19 car, the 4 of Kevin Harvick in the background. There you see Elliott. Looks like he's trying to get out of the way back there as they're 3 wide up here for a couple rows deep. Truex definitely seems to have some speed in that Joe Gibbs Racing Best Pro Shops Toyota Camry. But now you're starting to see the guys that have gotten through the slower cars trying to suck up to the back of this pack, including the 4, the 48, the 42, the 51 even, as well as Bubba Wallace, who really has a lot of ground to make up there. He lost a bunch of time being stuck behind some traffic, but a big shock to see that crash under caution here in stage 2. Very unfortunate, of course, to see that crash happen, as we were hoping it was not going to be in that fashion, at least happen under green flag conditions. But now, Jay, we got Kyle Larson out in front, Kyle Busch here as well. And I mean, of course, for a guy like Kyle Busch and even anybody on that bubble, the less cars, honestly, the better. But maybe for Kyle, not so much, because he wants more cars. That in that way, if maybe DiBenedetto has an issue, he loses even more points. So it's kind of going to hurt Kyle Busch in a way.
Yeah, it also hurts him that only one competitor around the bubble right now has had issues, and that's the 17, who at the moment will most likely be outside of the playoffs if DiBenedetto doesn't wreck. So at the moment, looks like Chris Buescher's hopes of being able to keep himself inside the playoffs, looks like those hopes might be over, and he'll be looking at himself outside the playoffs after this race. But yeah, Kyle Busch, he's 43 points down at the moment, so he's going to have some people around the bubble like Martin Truex Jr., Matt DiBenedetto to have issues. The other person around him that has the chance, Reddick, is 1 point behind him. So he's really got to hope that the issues also happen to Truex Jr. and DiBenedetto as well for Kyle Busch to have any shot in going into Daytona with still in the range of points. But of course, Kyle Busch could also just go and take the checkered flag as well and put himself in victory lane and put himself in the playoffs that way too. So I'm sure he wants that to happen, so that way he doesn't have to worry about points anymore.
Chase Elliott down in the 30th position. Kyle Larson, well, of course, leading the way. That's a 30-point difference, of course, between those two drivers. Right now, oh boy, there was some contact with the 10 of Almirola and the 2 of Keselowski. Somehow, everybody keeps it going in the right direction, but this is going to be big for the regular season championship right now with Kyle Larson as well as Chase Elliott. We'll have to keep an eye on how that changes throughout the races. Elliott's only hope is some issues for that 5 of Kyle Larson here in that third and final stage, or even still in stage 2. 10 laps to go in stage 2, and we're starting to see who's got speed and who doesn't now at this point here. And I mean, we still got about 10 cars in the main pack, and then it goes back to Ross Chastain, and then Cody Ware. I believe the 23 Bubba Wallace definitely has some competitive speed, but he's got to try and find that draft. And then through here, it's really hard to tell if any of these cars are going to have legitimate speed, but definitely seems like that 14 has fallen off. And then you see, of course, the 8 and the 9. But now that things have calmed down, just 10 laps to go on the stage, we're going to take one quick break here from Michigan and come back here in a few moments' time to end the second stage. Back from Michigan, 5 laps to go in stage 1 as the leaders catch very slow cars here in the turns. One is going to be 4 wide for the lead. This could create problems now. So the 18, the 5, the 21, they're going to go crashing. The 21 gets away very well. The 18 of Kyle Busch and the 5 of Kyle Larson. It could get worse here in a second because, oh my goodness, everybody got out of the way. Thank goodness. Oh my goodness, just as we come back from break, they caught the 22 on the previous run during the commercials, and they really got held up behind Joey Logano. But now the caution, of course, going to come out here from Michigan, and that puts the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. out in front. Jay, now we're getting a taste of how this lap traffic is going to potentially affect the race for the rest of the day here now, and that's going to be a whole nother obstacle for everybody to deal with.
And 2 big guys we were paying attention to just got wiped out in that wreck as well. I think Larson might be okay. He definitely got some damage, but it may not be terrible. But Kyle Busch certainly got some major damage. He may wind up DNF, certainly, if not way off the pace in another one of these obstacles going around the track. But that is going to affect his playoffs hope severely. And same thing with Tyler Reddick, who already had damage, very heavy damage from that previous wreck. So both of those drivers are essentially going to be looking at a must-win situation going into Daytona. They're already 40-something points out. They're certainly not going to make that any better after this race and probably be down below 60 points, which will certainly be a must-win situation. So Kyle Busch, his really great run there of a month or so is all getting put back, and he's going back to the way he was at the beginning of the season, where he's getting caught up in wrecks and really in a bad situation now.
He's going to be in a must-win situation for sure now at Daytona if he wants to make it into the playoffs. Now, this could be the first time since 2012 that Kyle Busch may miss the postseason. So back in 2012, he lost out to Jeff Gordon, who got the final spot after a second place finish there at Richmond International Raceway, where Kyle Busch spent about the first 350 laps of that race actually above the cut line over Gordon, and then Jeff Gordon had a late race charge and got himself back in over the 18 of Kyle Busch. So we're seeing everybody come into the pit lane. Jay, I mean, that 22 of Joey Logano, we didn't have it there live, but his car looks really good, but is about 20 miles per hour off the pace. So Kyle Larson, who just got involved in that incident, his car is going to look pretty good. I mean, even before the damage, so we could see him way off the pace as well, and that puts him in a situation where potentially both him and Elliott have these issues, and that opens the door for that regular season championship battle to get even closer going into next week between Hamlin, not Logano, of course, but Almirola as well.
Yeah, Almirola, even though he has all that rear end damage, he still looks extremely quick, and then Hamlin has been battling for the lead as well. So, yeah, if Larson is off the pace and he finishes back there with Chase Elliott, I think that does open the door easily for Almirola and Denny Hamlin to get themselves closer to the top point position, and then we could go into Daytona with a four-way battle for that top position and for those three positions overall, which I think is going to be another exciting thing to look at. We're going to have that regular season points winner battle to look for, and the championship battle with guys needing to win to get in, guys needing to get good points to get themselves in the playoffs. So this is setting up to have a lot of storylines going into Daytona.
There you see the front end of the 18 completely torn off. Kyle Larson's car looks really good, but it definitely might not drive it very good in terms of speed. What we're going to do again is go for a very quick break here from Michigan. We're looking right here, and it looks like as the pace car crosses the line, there's just 2 laps to go in the stage. Next time around, they're actually going to take the white flag, and then when they start the restart, that'll actually be the checker to stage 2. So what we're going to do actually is call stage 2 right here because it doesn't make a single difference. And that way it allows to start stage 3 as well a few laps early. So Bubba Wallace is going to end up getting the stage 2 victory. Keselowski's going to end up second. Austin Dillon third. Chastain with 51, the 48 of Alex Bowman. Truex here gaining a few important points above that cut line. And then rounding out the top 10 is Almirola as well as Hamlin. De Benedetto down in 12th place. But that's still putting him in a solid spot going into the start of stage 3. As we're going to go for a quick break, like I said, and come back for the start of the third and final stage here from Michigan International Speedway for 60 more laps of racing. Back from Michigan, getting ready to go green for the start of stage 3. A bit of a weird scenario here. Ross Chastain is coming to the pit lane. Must be some type of mechanical issue for them, so they will be bringing it in this time by the Talladega Superspeedway winner from earlier this year. They are locked into the playoffs here, as it looks like they should safely remain in the top 30 in points. Getting ready for the start of stage 3 here on lap 61, which will give us exactly 60 laps to go. This race comes to a close on lap 120, completing when we hit lap 121. Jay, we've been seeing this racing now throughout the day. We had some good pack racing going on. We had a lot of single file early on in the day, but now, of course, we've been seeing kind of what it's going to be like throughout the rest of this race since that big incident. And we know slow cars are going to be up in the mix and could spice things up. And what do you think here? Who do you got your eyes on as the guy you're looking at to potentially win this race?
I think Truex, we saw him have good speed there on that last restart, so I think Truex is the first one that I look at. But Keselowski as well, you can't count him out at this type of race. So I think those are our best 2 at the moment. But this time around, it looks like these guys got away a lot better from these cars, so we still have a decent pack up towards the front. A lot larger pack than we had last time, so hopefully they'll be able to keep themselves in the pack race, and we'll still be able to have some exciting racing for the rest of this race.
22 is definitely still off the pace. Kyle Larson, you can tell he's got some speed in that car, so it's all going to be about him trying to work his way through the traffic, but now he's not going to have the connection with the main pack, so he's going to have to deal with that throughout the rest of the day and find some way to get to that main pack of cars with strategy or just lucky timing with a caution based off of his track position. But up front, I mean, it's 3 by 3 by 3 right now, so even with only 10, 11 cars in the mix, maybe 12 cars or so, we still got a really good battle happening up here. So that's one positive out of this race so far, is it's 3 wide across the line. Truex, Keselowski, as well as Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace won the Coca-Cola 600. He's locked into the playoffs. Keselowski has a win as well this season. He is locked in. The 19, though, obviously we know he's not locked in, but with everything happening in this race, Jay, with the 17 being out, the 8 having an incident, as well as now the 18 of Kyle Busch having the incident, I mean, at this point, if he can just remain in the top 10, keep the car clean, he is going to be potentially about 50, almost 60 points above the cut line if it works out in the way it is now for him after today.
Yeah, he's in a really good position at the moment, so he needs to make sure he doesn't wind up in a wreck because he could go into Daytona all but secured into the playoffs as long as we don't have a new winner in this race. Which, speaking of new winner, we have the 3 up here who's fallen back a little bit, but also the 48, a guy we were talking about earlier, who's kind of had bad luck and never really able to survive these kind of wrecks. Well, he's done it this time, and he's up here in stage 3 fighting for the lead. So he's put himself in position now to where he's avoided the wrecks. He's got good speed, and he's up here with this pack, and we're at Michigan where it's technically a plate track, anything can happen. So I'm sure Bowman wants to stay with his lead group and put himself in a position to try and get this win. But yeah, Truex really wants to make sure he's not in a wreck. And if we don't have a new winner, I think he could potentially be locked into the playoffs after this race.
Mathematically, he could find a way to lock himself in at the end of today's race. But you mentioned there with the 48 and the 3, if they do win, or even the 6 of Ryan Newman, or the 51 of Cody Ware for that matter, he somehow still finds himself in the top 30. But if Bowman or the 3 of Austin Dillon wins, that leaves just 1 spot left on points, with still 1 race left in the regular season, which means we could still have 16 different winners. We do have actually 15 different winners. Austin Cindric won at Bristol Dirt earlier this season. He wasn't full-time racing though, so he did not actually have a chance to make the playoffs as he's Xfinity Series regular, but definitely still a possibility if we see a surprise winner today that we could also get another new winner next week, and only winners make it into the playoffs this season. So that would be one heck of a storyline. And Jay, I mean, obviously, especially we think back to Talladega, we saw a shock winner there with Ross Chastain, and that was the first time we ran the current physics package that we are running here with the cup cars at the plate track. So what do you think the odds are next week at Daytona of seeing a surprise winner and maybe knocking out the guy in 16th and on points right now out of the playoffs?
I think the odds are pretty high. I honestly expected I expected us to be in this position where we already had 16 winners by this point. Honestly, with the way the season was going, I thought we would easily have over 16. But it's kind of gotten to where we've gotten into a rhythm the last 2 months or so where more drivers already have been getting wins again. So it's kind of calmed down, but I still think with these last 2 races, especially with the way this race has played out, we now have a lot of the winners taken out of this race, or at least in not in contention at the moment, like Kyle Larson, who is definitely has good speed, has made his way up almost to the front of that second pack, but he's going to have to hope for another caution to get himself back into this lead pack. But with some guys having issues right now, we have the potential for a couple new guys up here to get a win. So I think we could go into Daytona and leave that race with 16 winners and only winners getting into the playoffs. And there is a chance that Martin Truex Jr. misses it because he doesn't get a win.
That's definitely a possibility here, and that's why he's really got to be on the attack today at Michigan, because you never know what's going to happen. As Matt DiBenedetto up in the top 3 right now, having a great run in this third and final stage, and we nearly saw his race come to an end at the end of stage 2, as he was a part of that incident, but barely got any contact, and fortunately for him, never went into the wall or hit anything at a high rate of speed, and actually his car is perfectly fine, so he got very, very lucky. And Jay, we've looked at his luck recently. Last week, blew up after the completion of a stage, and Watkins Glen, he was running top 10 on the final lap, and Keselowski, who's right behind actually, coincidence there, turned him into the guardrail, ended his race. So this guy's had a lot of bad luck lately over the last few weeks, but now today it's just about, can he secure, I mean, a good top 10 finish, or do you think he could potentially still get taken out by bad luck, as he's been very close already today to being wiped out?
He's survived the majority of the wrecks so far, of course getting damaged in that last one, but still able to fix his car and keep it obviously in good racing conditions. So I think with the amount of cars we have left at the moment, the possibility of him getting involved in a big mess and really hurting his day is a lot lower than it was. It's definitely still not zero. There is definitely a large chance still that a big wreck can happen, especially with some of these slower guys on track who they haven't caught yet, but I'm sure they will in a few laps time. So he's really got to just make sure he keeps it clean, gets around these guys at a decent time, and puts himself in a good position. And if there's anyone I think he wants to be behind right now, it'll be the 2 of Brad Keselowski, because he knows that Brad owes him one for Watkins Glen. So he is going to be looking. If he's in second place in that final lap, I'm sure he'll have no issues dumping Brad Keselowski and turning him to get his first career win and secure his spot in the playoffs.
And the first set of slow cars that these guys are going to be coming up on is the 22, the 8, and the 18, who are all about the same speed right now. They're going about 15 to 20 miles per hour slower than the front pack, so it's really not going to be long until they catch these guys. And we're about already close to halfway through the current fuel run. A minimum of 2 pit stops happening here in stage 3 under green, under caution, whatever it is. So, Jay, that opens another door, but I don't think we've seen 2 green flag pit stops in the final stage of the season. I think this is going to be the first time, potentially, if it does stay green, of course. So that creates a whole nother plot here as well, because we could see a speeding penalty, of course, and the playoff hopes for Matt Benedetto today. Of course, he's known to be not very too aggressive on the pit lane, so I don't think it's going to affect him too much, but there's a lot of things going on. Pit lane as well as these slow cars, so this is by no means anywhere close to being done and over with yet.
Oh yeah, there's still a whole lot that can happen in this third stage. We're only 10 laps into it, so there's a lot of racing to go in this 60-lap stage. We have a lot of things that can still happen, even though a good bit of cars are taken out. But I think that pit road as far as entering it and having these packs go, is going to be a little less interesting than it would if we still had a big giant pack up here towards the lead with only 11 or 12 cars in this lead group. We won't see as much strategy, and I don't think we're going to see some guys pit early or pit late and be able to get some kind of advantage out of it. They're probably all going to pit together and kind of stay together. So that some of that strategy kind of goes out the window. But there's still lots of things that can happen on pit road: a slow pit stop, speeding penalty, like you mentioned, maybe some contact between drivers who have pit boxes close to each other. So any number of things that can happen, including stuff on the racetrack like a wreck or anything like that. So there's a ton of stuff left that can happen in this race, and I don't think we're done yet with the wrecks either, honestly.
Kyle Larson, yeah, leading that second pack, but of course nowhere near the caliber of just good cars in this second pack. And we're seeing him last lap, he lost about 0.2 of a second to the leader. So this time around, Kyle Larson, he's in 12th place. He's about 4.4 seconds back at the end of the last lap. This time by, he is going to probably be, oh, he actually gained ground, 4.2 seconds. So he lost last lap, gained this lap. So surprisingly, Jay, we're seeing, I mean, that's showing that 5 car might have a lot of speed in that thing, because he doesn't have anywhere near the amount of help as this group right here, and he's closing in on them, and he's about to get even more assistance with these slow cars coming up here.
I think it helps that this lead group are battling them, each other pretty hard right now at the moment. And that group that he's in, they're pretty much single file and just riding, making up ground on this lead group. So I think that's why he's been able to make up some ground. And then also, yeah, with these 3 cars here, that's certainly going to help Kyle Larson out. But then again, he's also going to have to fight with that group when he gets up to them as well. So he might gain some ground for now, but then he's going to have to deal with them in a couple laps too.
Oh boy, here we go. Everybody's going to get swallowed up here in turns 1 and 2. Will everybody get through in a safe manner? It looks like this time they will. There will not be an incident like there was in stage 2, but the 18, the 8, they are in the outside line as well as the 22, and they're not going to have as massively have an effect as I thought they were going to, as it looks like everybody is going to get through here on the inside. So it didn't affect it too much. It definitely still has its effect, and then the second pack here momentarily is going to have to work its way through as well. We're going to see the difference that made Kyle Larson, who was 4.2 seconds back before that. Well, he's going to cross the line now to be now 3.7 seconds back. Actually didn't gain as much as I thought he was going to, but we'll see now, of course, with him having to work through that pack next, how that will affect his pace now. As by the way, he ran down the 6 in the 51.
Yes, I was just about to mention that they also just gained 2 more cars as well. So if those 2 cars are able to stay with him, that pack just got 2 cars bigger. And I think that they certainly do have decent pace to stick with that lead pack. They stuck with him for about 10 or so laps. So I think those cars have decent pace under him. So we'll see if those 2 cars can help this group start catching the lead pack.
And they're coming up right now on the 3 slow cars of the 22 and the 8. So it's all going to be about how quick can they work their way through it. And Larson, I mean, might just cruise through on the inside here, as it might work out pretty well for him. He's now, yeah, I mean, it didn't hold up Larson whatsoever. So, I mean, that's going to be a nice little gain for them. And honestly, Jay, I guess his advantage with those slow cars is when he's not in a big pack battling with people, it's going to allow him to gain time on these guys who, when they caught those cars, are just battling it out 2-3 wide.
Now, what it does do, though, is it held up that pack behind him. So now Larson and Harvick are detached from the group they were with, and they may no longer be able to make up ground. I could be wrong, but those two together could be strong enough to make up ground on this lead group with as hard as they're fighting, and there's also some damaged cars in that group as well. So it'll take a few laps, I think, for us to see what happens. But yeah, Larson and Harvick are also detached from that group now. So it's going to be those two trying to gain their way back up to this lead pack. Austin Dillon's also lost connection, so they should be able to gain him in a few laps as well.
That last lap, if that's anything to go by, he lost 0.3 of a second to the leader of Martin Truex Jr., who now finds himself out in front over Matt DiBenedetto, as Keselowski has drifted down into 3rd place. But we do as well have another group of slower cars, not drastically slow like the previous 3, but definitely still going to be affecting a little bit here. So Kyle Larson this time around, though, is going to come through to cross the line and lose just over 1/10 of a second. So they're definitely going to need a little bit more assistance if they want to be able to get back up to this front pack. We got pit stops coming up here in just a few laps of time now. As this as well, I mean, Jay, if they find themselves pitting right in the mix of this slow group right here, that could definitely cause a little bit of chaos and calamity here, as that could bring up the potential for some incidents.
I think the smart move is for them to pit right now, which I thought it might have. It looked like the 12 and the 2 were going to
The 3,
do that,
I think.
but they were just on the low line. Yes, the 3 is coming to pit road, so obviously pit stops are going to start happening right about now, and I think that should have been the time the lead pack should have done it right there. They could have pitted and avoided having to deal with this group, but they're going to have to deal with them this lap anyways. So here we go. Let's see how they navigate it.
Oh, DeBenedetto into the side of the 00. Oh boy, another close call for the Wood Brothers Racing driver. His career on the line. We don't know what his future holds at this point now. Rumors with Denny Hamlin potentially getting more charters for his Cup team. Could you see DeBenedetto end up there as well? Now, as we have some potential pit stops on the way. Oh, it is getting close here. This is the craziest racing we've seen so far in Stage 3. The 34 coming in, as well as the 23 of Bubba Wallace, decides he's bailing from this main pack to pit as well. Do we have anybody else coming in? It looks like the 6 of Newman, the 51 as well. Jay, honestly, I mean, do you think that's the right call for Bubba to bail out of the lead pack there and let these guys go have at it? Or do you think he might have just messed himself over here whenever everybody comes back out?
I'm not so sure. If he had pitted the lap prior to these guys dealing with that group there, then I think that would have been the right call. But him pitting now, when this group is now in the clear again, I think it's going to wind up being a mistake for him. As it looks like we might have Kozlowski and Denny pitting here, maybe. No, Truex is definitely pitting, and Kozlowski as well. So those two are going to go in. We're going to have this group kind of pitting at separate times from each other. And if that happens with the entirety of the group, it may be okay for Bubba Wallace. But if we see 4 or 5 cars pit together, which is about the amount that we have left now, it may wind up hurting Bubba Wallace.
We're going to have to see what happens here. I'm surprised we're seeing so many different drivers pit on separate laps here, unlike what we saw in Stage 1, where it was really just 2 packs came in on 2 different laps. But now we've already seen 2 to 3 different strategies going on here, but a couple laps apart. Will we see anybody coming here? I would expect to see just about everybody at this point come in, except the 21. He's going to stay out. So DeBenedetto, I mean, if the caution comes out, it might work out for him. But he is going to stay out. The 5 of Larson comes in as well. And I think pretty much everybody here is deciding to come in. Everybody else is... Oh, boy! They save it. I don't know what happened there. Close call. Oh, it might not be saved yet here as... Oh, big contact. Oh, my goodness. The 8 was trying to get in. The 66 trying to stay out. And, hey, that nearly changed everything. Would have been great for Matt DeBenedetto.
That would have been a huge moment for DeBenedetto, but another thing I was going to say as well is you could see there when they were pitting, Larson was almost maybe a second and a half or 2 seconds behind that group, so he obviously gained a lot by not having to struggle with those cars when those guys did. So he got himself caught back up to this pack, so by the time they come out of pit road here, he may be in drafting distance.
And there's the 19 of Truex. Of course, we saw him make his pit stop. That's really what we are going to be watching right here, is where does he cycle out. Bubba Wallace is a little ways behind, so we're seeing that effect there. Kyle Larson's coming out already, and Truex is already well ahead right here, and it looks like he's going to be pretty much even with the 11 of Hamlin, but definitely some more separation. And honestly, Jay, I think the short pitting strategy might have been the way to go here, but now, of course, everybody has a little bit fresher tires, and they're closer together back here. They might still be able to work their way up towards those front 2 drivers.
Yeah, we have a lot more separation now than I was actually expecting us to have, but that group back there behind these 3 cars right here, I don't know if they're going to be strong enough to kind of make their way up to, well, Kevin Harvick certainly will be, and Almirola as well, and Bubba should be as well, so they might be able to make their way up to that lead 3 in front of them, and then they might be able to form a group of 6 to go up towards those leaders, but we're going to have to see how this plays out at the moment. I'm also not sure. I believe DeBenedetto has pitted by now, but I'm not. Yes, he has. He's coming off pit road right now. So let's see where he plays out and where he lines up with these groups. Going to be in between them, unfortunately for him.
It's going to be tough. I don't think he's going to hold on to the draft. Definitely will not have the draft from the 48. So, yeah, now he's going to have to rely on this pack right here, running him down, and then working together to get back up to this pack, I think, here now. As Truex, by the way, battling it out with Brad Keselowski, and they got a nice gap right now over Hamlin as well as Ryan Blaney, as we'll see if they can continue to lead the way here now, as less than 40 laps remain from Michigan International Speedway. Still one pit stop on the way. Before we go to a break, we're going to see how they are able to navigate through this 8 car right here in a safe manner. Hopefully now as Truex, oh, they're going to split them 3 wide middle. Whatever works, they make it work, and they continue on P1 as well as P2. But here comes Hamlin and Blaney around the outside. Everybody's so far getting through him pretty clean. So what we're going to do now is go for a quick break and come back here in a few moments, leading to the final set of pit stops here from Michigan International Speedway. Welcome back from Michigan International Speedway. 25 laps to go, which means in just a few laps time, the pit window will be open to make it to the end of this race. Side by side with Truex and Hamlin, the 2 JGR teammates right now. Truex would love to get a win today in Michigan to not have to worry whatsoever going into next week at Daytona International Speedway. But it's 4 cars up front here, and that, of course, is the 19, the 11, the 2, as well as the 12. So, Jay, it's 2 Joe Gibbs cars and 2 Penske cars. I mean, you put these 2 together, what duo do you think would come out on top here? I mean, at a plate track, I would have to think Penske Racing.
Yeah, I would have to think that as well, but at the current moment, we really have, it's honestly not really Penske versus JGR. It's really the 11 and the 12 versus the 19 and the 2. We saw Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney really catch up on these guys quick here with the fresher tires, and that's actually something that I did not expect. Seems like fresher tires are indeed helping these guys out a lot. So I think it's kind of evened out a bit now, but Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney seem to have the advantage over Martin Truex Jr. and Brad Keselowski at the moment.
Well, that advantage might get wiped right here, as it's going to be very close right there for the 19, but he's going to get stuck, but he is going to pull out a line right there and get past the 00, so it's not going to be too bad for him, as they got to continue to work their way through these slow cars. Blaney, though, is going to really get held up back there in that number 12 car, as Kyle Larson leads a nice group of cars right here. They're trying their hardest to get back up into the mix. 4 seconds back, they got DiBenedetto behind that 5 car. They got Harvick here. They got 23 of Bubba Wallace, Anthony Alfredo, as well as Alex Bowman and Eric Almirola. But Jay, it seems like as they may have extra cars by, like, they have 3 more cars or so in this pack. It doesn't seem like it's making a huge difference, and it's almost really depending on where they catch the slower traffic at this point.
This is pretty much the only time, or the first time this run, they've actually kind of been together. We saw them right together towards the start of it, and then all these slow cars started coming in. It's really hurt that group. The front group has gotten through it a lot easier than this back group has. They've really struggled to stay together, and they're probably going to get separated again right here. That was close. Let's see how these guys navigate it.
Side by side with the 21 and the 8, but they get through it relatively decently. There's, oh, the 00 is going to just about run the 21 all the way to the white line, but that definitely got very close between the 5 and the number 8 of Tyler Reddick. So that's something we got to keep an eye on.
Obviously, they're going to be slower this lap because of these guys, but that last lap beforehand, they gained 3/10 or so on the leaders. So obviously, when they're together, they're much faster. They just can't stay together because all these slower cars.
And they lost 3/10 right there. So, I mean, a net gain of 1/10 in the last 2 laps. And Blaney is way off all of a sudden here. I don't know. Oh, boy. Here we go. We got the 22 that they got to work their way through. We know how far off the pace he is. 174 into the corner versus Truex's 191. They're going to split him 3 wide. So, I mean, Jay, it's just this front group seems to be kind of getting really lucky with the timing compared to that second group.
It also helps, too, when they're a smaller group. They're only 3 or 4 cars. 3 now, I guess, with Blaney. He's really lost the connection to these 3 here, so he's going to have to slip back to the second group. But, yeah. It helps that they're a smaller group as well. They just happen to be catching them at a better time, too. This group further back is, I don't know, I think about 8 cars now, and they really struggle getting through. The first 2 or 3 can do it, and then the others get really stuck back there, especially if they're too wide, which usually winds up happening. So the lead group, I think, is going to have the advantage just because they're a smaller group.
And there you see Truex and Hamlin still running 1-2. Here with 20 laps to go, and right now Keselowski is trying to stay with them. Blaney is going to definitely fade back to Kyle Larson here within the next few laps now, as we are definitely getting close to these final pit stops now, Jay. I mean, we're seeing the effect of, Truex was the first one out of this group, and as well as Keselowski to pit compared to a Hamlin and a Blaney, and it doesn't seem to be affecting it too much. So do you try and gamble here? Maybe just take 2 tires? I mean, I don't think they're going to need to fill their tanks up completely to make it to the finish of this race, so they might be able to escape with trying 2 tires, maybe even a no-tire pit stop and just a splash of fuel.
I think that what this second pack needs to try and do is they need to try and pit everybody before the before the first pack. They need to all pit together and do it before the first pack, because I think that the fresher tires, or no, sorry, they need to stay out later than this first pack, and they all need to pit together, because it seems like the fresher tires, if they pit 3 or 4 laps later, they will have a pretty big advantage over those guys who've already pitted, and then it kind of evens out towards the middle of the run. So I think that these guys back here probably want to stay out later. Also hope for a caution as well. But then they'll be quicker when they come off a pit road, and especially if they're all together. And then they can maybe try and make their way back up to this group, or maybe do the opposite way: pit first, gain some ground on the older tires. So either way, they need to not pit at the same time as the leaders, and they need to all pit together.
Front three stay out, and these next back three here are going to stay out as well. Blaney really falling off as this run goes on. Bubba Wallace, though, going to come into the pit lane. We saw him pit by himself earlier, and the effect it had, it got him in the position he's in now, but he's going to do it again for some reason. Here comes the 20, the 51, as well as the 6 of Ryan Newman. So we're going to keep an eye on right here, though. What does the 23 of Bubba Wallace do? So he pulls into his pit box. They're going to start with right side tires. So is it going to be a 2-tire stop here, or maybe they going to do 4 tires? We're about to find out right here. It's going to be 4 tires for Bubba Wallace there. So they are not taking any type of gamble here on this set of pit stops now. As up front, you can see that we now got the 19 on the pit lane, as well as I couldn't tell if Hamlin was in the pit lane or not, but they're working their way now through the 18 of Kyle Busch. But there's Truex right there. We're going to see what he elects to do. It looks like Hamlin and Keselowski both stayed out on the track, so we're going to get the camera on them as soon as we can. There you see Keselowski and Hamlin are going to be side by side into turn 3. So Jay, now, I mean, you can see that 11 getting stuck by the 53. That's something Truex didn't have to deal with right here, so this could be a big opportunity for Truex to come out quite a ways in front.
Yeah, Keselowski might have been okay there. He might have stayed outside of that 52 and been okay there, and then he gets himself a pit road now, so he might have been fine. But yeah, the 11 definitely got held up there. And I don't know if he's gotten past him by now. I would hope he has. There he goes. He's just now getting past. So that might actually be a very big advantage for Truex, since Denny Hamlin was caught behind him for so long. And that back group as well might have gained. Yeah, they did. They have gained on these leaders a little bit. But of course, they're in a group. Denny Hamlin is by himself. So expected that they're going to gain. But are they going to gain on Truex? I doubt it.
I mean, if I'm Larson DiBenedetto, I'd be thinking about pitting right now, but it looks like none of them are going to. Larson's just going to go right on by on the outside. If I'm DiBenedetto, I decide to come in right here, and I think that's exactly what he's going to do. Yes, Matt DiBenedetto is bringing it into the pit lane. So there you see Truex, Hamlin as well onto the pit lane. So we're going to see how Hamlin's staying out. An extra 2 laps is going to affect the results of this race. Blaney just now coming out behind Truex. He is way back there. So unfortunate for him now, as he's going to need a caution to get back into the mix. There's the 2 on the exit of turns 2. And where is he going to come out? He might come out in front of the 19, but Kyle Larson, I'm sure, wants to be coming into the pit lane here at some point now. So we're going to have to wait and see what he does now through turns 3. Truex right on the back of him. Looks like the 5's checking up. I think there he is right there. Kyle Larson is going to bring it into the pit lane. So Truex back out in front, but now we got to, of course, see where he is going to cycle out in front of Denny Hamlin, who right now is just entering turns 1. And Jay, it looks like it's going to be close between these guys.
Yeah, I think that Hamlin's going to get overtaken, and he might be a little bit too far back to gain anything here. Although we saw it last time where he was too far back and still got his way right back up to these guys. So he had help when he did it last time too, though. He doesn't really have help this time. So we'll have to watch Denny Hamlin here and see if he's able to gain up to these lead 2.
All the fresh tires allow him to run these 2 drivers down now. So just 2 remain at the moment in this battle for the win. Keselowski, I mean, he probably doesn't want to let that 19 get into the playoffs on a win, but nonetheless, it's been a big day for Martin Truex Jr. The last 2 weeks have been really big for Martin Truex Jr. now, as he's in a position to go for the win. Kyle Larson, you can see, comes into the frame. He's just coming out now, and you can tell he's for sure going to need a caution if he wants to get back up into the mix. But now it's so spread out, I don't know if we're going to quite see that caution happen without some unfortunate circumstance with some slow car or something in the mix here. So Keselowski side by side with Martin Truex Jr. and Jay, I mean, if you're Matt DiBenedetto, you got to be a little bit concerned seeing one of those guys that you try to beat in on points right now winning the race. He does that, or potentially winning the race. Of course, he does have that 17 of Buescher out, but this still doesn't help because that is technically a new winner, and that would put him in a situation still, if there's a new winner next week, finding himself on the outside of the playoffs.
Yeah, he's really got to hope for Kozlowski to get a win at the moment, and also hope that he's able to gain some positions to make his points position a little bit better going into Daytona. But I'm not too sure if DiBenedetto can even gain any points at the moment. I saw when they were coming off of turn 4 there, as Denny Hamlin has actually caught this lead group, so fresh tires are indeed helping him. I think he might have the better car at the moment as well. But the draft overall may not, may be too strong for him to get around these guys here, or at least keep them with him if he does get by. But I saw when they were coming off pit road there, I saw DiBenedetto get slowed up by somebody, I think either coming to pit road or one of those really slow cars, and he lost connection with Kyle Larson when he came off pit
Oh,
road. As the double
oh
zero is
man.
really going to park Hamlin here. That's really going to affect Denny Hamlin.
Wow, all the work he
Still in
did.
front of him.
He's going to have to try and find that space or pace again to get back to those guys coming to the final 10 laps of this race. I thought that was going to turn into an incident there as Hamlin and Truex were trying to go for the same spot there as Hamlin was trying to get out of the way to avoid that double zero. But it looks like he's still going to have the draft, I think. As we look around where Matt DiBenedetto is right now, he is battling with the 5 of Larson and the 12 of Ryan Blaney. He got this big pack of cars right here, but they're almost 7 seconds behind. So, like we said, the only chance they have is a caution at this point. And I mean, Jay, with that big pack of cars running down the slower cars, that opens up that opportunity whenever they get to this double zero. I mean, they could come together and have some type of incident and bring out a late race caution.
Yeah, I still think that we have the possibility of a caution here. You know, there's anything that can happen, and with a lot of these cars on track, and especially the slower ones affecting some of these guys. We've seen it before that the slower guys have caused issues. You know, usually when we have more cars together, they cause issues. So when it's a smaller packs, they usually don't get in the way that bad, or at least not enough to cause a wreck. But it's still very possible, especially with this group here of about 7 or 8 cars, all kind of too wide together. These slow cars could cause an issue, and we could see a late race caution.
And Hamlin runs the top 2 back down and now is side by side for the lead with Brad Keselowski. Now what do they have? They got the 22 of Joey Logano next up to deal with. So how are they going to work their way through him? It looks like they're going to choose 3 different lanes and all 3 make it work. Wow, they just blew right on by him. An unbelievable difference in the rate of speed between those 2 cars, or 4 cars. One little mistake, that could have been a big impact right there for someone, but fortunately for them, they all make it work now. But Jay, I mean, the whole pack here coming up is going to have to deal with this 22, and they're dealing with the double zero right now, and that's going to mess over Kyle Larson. I mean, if you're a Chase Elliott fan, I mean, that's exactly what you want to see now, as it looks like Larson at this point is going to have a very comfortable gap for the regular season championship lead going into Daytona.
That also hurt DiBenedetto as well. He was the first. Him and Larson were the first 2 cars in that group, and now they are towards the back of it. And in a moment where both of those guys need every point they can get, they just lost a couple of there, but they still have plenty of time to get back around those guys. I think they're probably the fastest cars in that group. I know Larson does. Larson has some incredible speed right now. Just unfortunate for him, he was put in a really bad position with track position wise, and we haven't had a caution since. So. They're also catching the 22, and they're 3
Awkward
wide
time.
back, 2 wide in the whole group. This could really
Oh.
shake things up as Blaney almost turned down on Harvick.
Looks like they will make it through, as it was an awkward spot to catch the 22, but I mean, if they get through there, fine, which they do, they should be okay. Holds up the 48 of Alex Bowman, but for the time being, it is going to stay green, coming to 6 laps to go. Hamlin has gotten to the lead while we were watching that group of cars go at it, and I don't know if you let Hamlin get out at this point. I mean, the draft should be able to keep them there, but I think it's going to be very hard to pass that 11 car, but we still have the 34 who's off the pace. They will definitely catch him, and they will for sure catch Kyle Busch. So there is still a couple more cars that these guys have to work through, and I think the second pack is as well at least going to get to the 18. So it's really down to this. If everyone gets through this 18 card cleanly, I think it stays green to the end. But now, Jay, you see a single file train here with the 11, the 2, and the 19. I think the only chance of beating the 11 is either that 18 messing something up or the 19 and the 2 have to work together.
Yeah, the 19 and 2, I think, are going to have to work together to get themselves around Denny Hamlin. They'll stay with him just because of the draft and how this type of race is, but I don't think they're going to be faster to pass him without working together. But it all depends on what happens with the 18 here. Is Hamlin gets held up for a second, but he's going to get around, and then Keselowski's going to get held up now. So Hamlin actually did a better job of getting through there than I thought he was originally. I thought Keselowski was going to be able to sneak the lead away.
And now Kozlowski's finally going to look to the inside. Now they go through the 34. Not a big deal with him. They caught him at a decent time with the lane that they had chosen. And they got to get through the 43 this time by. It'll be 4 laps to go at the line here. Anyone else that they're going to have to deal with does not appear so. So Hamlin leads the way with 4 to go. So now it's about when this second pack gets there. How do they manage? It's all down to that now at this point. Now, as Hamlin, of course, is hoping that nothing goes wrong right there for that pack when they get to the 18 of Kyle Busch here. Is this Hamlin, Truex, Keselowski, your top 3. Hamlin, 3 wins on the season, tied for the most this season with Kyle Larson. Truex still winless. Keselowski has a win here, and this would be a huge moment if Truex can find his way to victory lane as we come up on the final 3 laps here from Michigan International Speedway. Jay, who do you have your money on at this point now, as it looks like these guys still struggling to find a way to get even to the inside of that 11 car?
I think it has to be Denny Hamlin. He's got those fresher tires. I think he's gotten a better car at the moment as well. So I think that it's going to be Denny Hamlin. I'm not too sure if the 2 and the 19 are going to work together so well. So I think it'll be Denny Hamlin.
You see, Truex gets to the inside, but he's going to have no help right there, and he just couldn't get ahead on the exit of the corner now. And no pressure up in front for these guys. They will not have to deal with lap traffic coming to the final 2 laps here in Michigan. But where is Kyle Busch? Oh boy, this could get interesting. They might catch him on the exit of turns 4, that second group of cars. So it really isn't going to be too concerning. But if they catch him going into turns 1, who knows what's going to happen. 2 laps to go here from Michigan International Speedway, Jay. Now, as we see this, they're going to be close into turns 1. This is the whole race potentially right here, with a potential caution on the way being decided right here in turn 1.
Yeah, this is going to get sketchy, I think. We have 2 wide pretty much all throughout the entire pack, and they're going to catch him right here into turn 1, where we've seen issues happen. This is the main turn. DiBenedetto's going to get around fine. Larson, most of the front of this group is, but Harvick's going to get held up, and they're on the straightaway now, so I don't think they're going to wreck.
So back up front, Truex down to 3rd, coming to the final lap. Keselowski has made a pass up in a 2nd, which we saw there as Keselowski stayed up top. White flag in the air for the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Does Truex or Keselowski have anything for him? Looking for his 4th win on the year, winless in real life. About to go for win number 4, like we mentioned here, as he comes through turns 1, and he's got the perfect case scenario. Jay behind him, exactly what you love to see for Denny Hamlin, side by side.
Yeah, the 9 and the 2, or the 19 and the 2 there really needed to work together down the front straightaway. And when Truex made that move to the inside of Keselowski, that basically wrote them off right there. They're not going to be working with each other. They're going to go to turn 3, not close enough to do anything with Denny Hamlin here. He's going to come off turn 4 and get his 4th win of the season.
Down the front straightaway in that FedEx Toyota Camry, Hamlin pulls it off there over Keselowski. Truex in 3rd place, which nonetheless comes up short of a victory. He's still going to have a very strong points day here, as Kyle Larson will end up 4th. DiBenedetto crosses the line for a 5th place finish, and that is going to put him, I believe, back in the playoffs, as Chris Buescher was all the way down in 32nd place. So DiBenedetto should be back in that final spot now, as he's going to be very, very thankful that the 19 car was not able to go to victory lane today, as it would have made it very, very intense for him in Daytona. So get a look here at the finishing results from Michigan, as what a race we saw, Jay. Of course, stage 1 was very, very calm and cool and collected, and then stage 2, a lot of pack racing. One incident with Chase Elliott, caution comes out. We see the big one occur under caution, and that, I mean, changed the racing product for the rest of the day, but we still saw some good racing up at the front of the pack and saw Hamlin just take control. And once again, as well, we saw Kevin Harvick, who really, I think, had the fastest car, of course, get damaged, and once again, not be in the mix of that race. But overall, I think we witnessed a pretty good race for Michigan International Speedway.
Yeah, it was not as great as I think you or I were expecting, but it was still a very good race, especially when those guys there were in a pack for the start of stage 2 until that caution came out. And that one caution did change the entire complexion of this race, and made it a lot different than I think either you or I expected. But that win for Hamlin is big for a couple of reasons. One, he got a win, and number 2, I believe that's going to put him either into the second place, into the second position in the regular season points, or it's going to put him at least in the hunt for it and be very close with Chase Elliott. That top spot of Kyle Larson is still going to be up for grabs at Daytona, but there's going to be some separation there. It's going to be really close between Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott for that 3rd spot. And Almirola should be in contention for that second spot, and certainly should be in the third spot as well. So I think we're still going to have a four-way battle for those final three positions. But it looks like Larson's going to still have a decent gap going into it. And then we also saw the playoff shakeups as well. DeBenedetto back into the playoffs now. Chris Buescher out. He's been falling down this list. And now it looks like he's going to be outside the playoffs. Tyler Reddick had a terrible race. He's going to be in a must-win situation. Kyle Busch is going to be in a must-win situation. Martin Truex potentially locked himself in with Denny Hamlin getting that win. So a lot of things changing, and we're going to go into Daytona with most likely one spot up for grabs if somebody is able to get a win. So we're going to still have a lot of things to look at, even though there's not many things changing within the points.
Lots of storylines to cover next week at Daytona. I'll have the points up at the end of this episode. The only realistic way Kyle Larson loses the regular season championship is option one. Hamlin has, or even Almirola, I mean, runs at the very front in stage 1 and 2 and stage 3, and they get just about maximum points. And Kyle Larson would either have to get no points in stage 1 and 2 and then have a horrendous stage 3 of finishing at 30th or worse, or of course just wreck out very early in that race. So it's going to take a miracle for anybody to beat him for the regular season championship after Chase Elliott's issues today from Michigan. But like we said, Jay, I mean, definitely looks like Truex is going to be close to mathematically locking himself in. I don't know how close, but of course I will be tallying that up after this episode. But we look into Daytona. What do you think we're going to see? Do you think we're going to see a surprise winner knock out Matt DiBenedetto for that final spot? Or do you think it's going to come down right to the final lap and become a points battle?
I'm not so sure that we'll see a new winner at this point. The only one I think or the only two that I think we could really see win that haven't yet are maybe Truex and Reddick. Kyle Busch has kind of had his bad luck streak come back where he's getting involved in wrecks. Reddick is good at plate tracks, and so is Truex. He's good just all around at pretty much any track. So I think those are the only two that could get a win. And obviously, if Truex is the one who wins, well, it won't really change much for DiBenedetto, but it certainly would change if Tyler Reddick were to get a win. So I think we can look forward to an exciting race at Daytona. We're going to have another plate track or another plate race, and hopefully one that actually stays a plate race for the majority of the race, and we don't have an early caution take out a bunch of contenders.
We'll have to wait and see what happens next week. I'm trying to put these episodes out a day earlier now than usual. Put them out on Saturdays before the day before the race. So we'll try to get Daytona out on Friday if possible, but it'll at least be Saturday before the race. If you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. We would like to thank you all for taking the time of your day to watch this episode and other ones on the channel. Next week, regular season finale at Daytona International Speedway, leading us into the final 10 races in what could be one heck of a playoff battle between 16 drivers. Thank you all for watching, and we see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.